All right, guys, let's talk about two of the most powerhouse creators that Marvel ever had at the height of their powers, and one of the greatest stories that they ever co-wrote, co-plotted, and John Byrne penciled with Terry Austin on inks. This is a facsimile edition of Uncanny X-Men 136 in a story called A Child of Light and Darkness. And you get the penultimate story of the Dark Phoenix Saga, shown here with all of the original ads that came in the original comic. And like I said, you get Chris Claremont, writer, John Byrne, co-plotter and penciler, and Terry Austin as inker. Up till this point, you've always wondered if there was any sort of redemption, any hope of redemption for Jean Grey and for the Phoenix. And what you get here is the President of the United States is ready to take the nuclear option. You have Scott and Wolverine and Colossus and Nightcrawler all feeling helpless. They absolutely hate to see their friend, and in Scott's case, his significant other, in such a tight position, in such a tight predicament. But he doesn't know really how to help her get through this. Meanwhile, just like everybody, most people, if it's an option, when you get into a feeling of anger, neglect, you feel like nobody loves you, you try to go home again. And the only problem with that is her parents and her sisters, or her parents and her sister, rather, show outwardly that they love her and they want to be supportive of her. But inside, she can hear their thoughts, thanks to Jean Grey's telekinesis. And their thoughts are telling them to be afraid of her because she could destroy them with a whisper, with a thought. Beast has created something that is supposed to kind of take Jean off of her game. She fights Beast and Colossus, Wolverine, and even Scott comes and he says, you know what, I'm tired of this. I'm tired of seeing my wife, my love, my Jean suffering with all of these damaging things that you're making her do. So if your anger is towards me, if you have any anger towards me, then just go ahead and kill me. The same thing that Peter Parker told Harry Osborn in Spectacular Spider-Man 183. He kept throwing pumpkin bombs at Pete until finally Peter just laid there on the ground on his knees and said, okay, if this will end it, if this will make it where you won't hurt anybody else anymore, then go ahead and kill me. And it's such a powerful move because you have characters that you just know are morally good, morally powerful, and at the same time, you get them put against these people that they love more than anything in the world. Professor Xavier, Scott, Colossus, Wolverine, all of them. And it appears that in the end, after a battle of the minds between Professor X and Jean, that the Phoenix is gone. And the lovers can be reunited. But then all of a sudden, they disappear somewhere. So, this leads into the fate of the Phoenix next issue. But what you've got to look at and what you've got to see is the love that these characters have, and you've got to see the characterization, the depth of what Chris Claremont was creating with these characters. I have never been the biggest X-Men fan. Maybe I can go back into it, during this time, where, if I'm correct, I believe they had Uncanny X-Men and possibly X-Factor. I think this is even before X-Factor, if I'm correct. But they didn't have 17 different titles, is my point. That's one reason I couldn't collect X-Men when I was growing up. I tried reading X-Men, and there was just so many books between X-Men and Spider-Man that, as a 9, 10, 11-year-old kid in the late 80s to early 90s, you only have so much disposable income. I couldn't go work a job for 40 hours a week and go, make a couple $100 every paycheck and go spend 50 of it on comics. I just didn't have that kind of money. And so I missed out on the X-Men. Now, the X-Men animated series, I've done videos on that, and I'll actually link to one of those videos in the description of this video, talking about X-Men 97, because I did a episode by episode breakdown of how that series went for the first season. But the Dark Phoenix Saga tells a tale of absolute power corrupts absolutely, even those that don't want to go down this dark path. But at the same time, is there any chance at redemption for these people once they've chosen their path, or the absolute power has corrupted them absolutely and the power might have chosen for them? Is there any road back? Is there any hope at all to redeem these characters? And in the years since, we've seen the death and the resurrection of the Phoenix. That's really kind of the shtick of the Phoenix and Jean Grey now, is that Jean will never really die because the Phoenix will always rebirth her. And that's the whole point of the Phoenix allegory, is that to be reborn in fire, to be something that's nigh unkillable. But at the same time, you see the love that Jean has for Scott, and how far Scott will go to save the woman that he loves. So this is wrapped in the front with that cover that you also see years later, actually 5 years later, with Crisis on Infinite Earths, with Superman holding Supergirl. And I know that it goes back even further than that to a Jack Kirby cover of Thor, where Odin was holding Thor lifeless in his arms. So it's a pretty classic comic pose and cover. But this is one of the greatest hits that either Marvel or DC or any comic company has ever created, simply because it touches on very adult themes of life and death and resurrection, retribution, and can someone who's considered irredeemable truly ever be redeemed? So if you get a chance, check this out at your shop. They've been doing it, I think, since issue 128. So this is the first issue of it I've picked up, but I do have the story itself in a trade paperback. So if you get a chance, check out on eBay, Goodwill, your local Ollie's or something might have a copy of this if you're lucky. But, the trades for this entire series are out there plentiful. And now you too can hold a copy of Uncanny X-Men 136 for $4.99 with all the ads and all the pomp and circumstance in your hand, thanks to this reprint facsimile. Thanks for watching, guys. Thanks for always enjoying these videos and giving them the thumbs up and the likes That really helps to goose the algorithm to let people know that this channel is still active. I'm still posting. People are, tuning in, and this channel is still growing. So thanks for joining me on this journey, and I will catch you guys in the next video. Have a wonderful weekend, everybody.